Welcome to Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli, where we highlight and speak with the innovators, the game changers, and the pioneers who are deeply passionate and relentless in solving the problems our world is facing today. This is your opportunity to connect with and learn from these leaders and to support them on their mission. Perhaps they will soon be hearing your story as well. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you on this journey with us.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our podcast and for spending a few moments with me. If you're plugging in for the first time, I'm glad you're here. I wanted to take a moment and share a recent occurrence I had related to mental well-being, vulnerability, and self-care, and to offer up some of my thoughts surrounding these important topics and to also gain your insights and perspective, as I believe it is more important than ever for us to create the space for authentic mental health and well-being in our daily lives in order to manage and conquer this growing epidemic within the current pandemic. But before I dive in, a bit of housekeeping. While listening to any of our episodes, please make sure to join our free online community at passionatepioneers.com in order to share feedback and ideas and interact with the global ecosystem. And lastly, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you will automatically receive episode updates in your podcast player. Simply search Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Well, since the outbreak turned into a global pandemic, so much of our daily lives have changed dramatically and have impacted so many of us in so many profound ways. Specifically, many of us are dealing with mental anguish and trauma, and also there are many across the country that are dealing with the physical affliction and death of COVID-19. But through it all, I have seen so many leaders that I admire step up, be vulnerable, and share some of their tips, tricks, and techniques that they have implemented into their daily lives to help themselves and their family and friends in order to rise above the anguish and angst the pandemic has inflicted on so many of us. Well, one specific leader I want to highlight is Pat Riley, the CEO of the Global Accelerator Network, or GAN, as well as managing partner of GAN Ventures. Let me set the stage. Pat has been a friend of mine and to the entrepreneurial community for many years, and someone I highly admire. His dedication, his mission to help empower entrepreneurs and startups around the world is infectious, authentic, and so powerful. And so anytime that Pat posts anything online, I always take a pit stop and the time to read it, because there will always be something to learn from Pat. Well, most recently, he put a LinkedIn post up titled "The New Non-Work Schedule for an Energetic Life." I have left a link in the episode notes for you to read his post in its entirety. Well, first and foremost, and again, the authenticity and the realness of his post is so heartfelt and vulnerable. Typical Pat fashion. Many leaders of his caliber would be frightened to share what he did and to put it out there to the world for others to read and to scrutinize. But again, true to Pat and his way of leading others in a humble and mission-driven way, his recent post caught my eye, and I wanted to make sure I shared with all of you. I was so proud of Pat for dropping this authentic bomb on all of us, and I hope you take the time to read it. It will not only be powerful for you, but for the loved ones that you surround yourself with. In his post, Pat lays out creating deliberate and intentional rhythms for our time outside of work. One rhythm that I loved is his family's 24-hour rest period. Let me read from the article. He writes, "This is the best part of my week, a blissful 24 hours of life-giving rest and fun. We start out our 24-hour rest period by making a fantastic dinner on Fridays, and on our Saturdays, start with a big breakfast, followed by fun activities as a family and an afternoon nap. I've been putting away my phone completely from 5 p.m. on Friday to 5 p.m. on Saturday. I don't look at the news or respond to text messages, and I do not engage with anyone outside of my family and friends I am present with. Those Friday nights and Saturdays have become the highlights of my week now. It's a day where I'm not contributing anything to the world other than just being a human being instead of a human doing. So powerful. And this is why I love Pat and his vulnerability to help lead others and to share what he is authentically going through, dealing with, and applying to his own life. Because I think right now, with everything being turned upside down, personally, professionally, culturally, socially, or otherwise, we need to get back to center and taking care of oneself, our family, our friends, and our loved ones. And so in closing, I want to hear from you. What are some of the innovative and unique ways, or even the I should have thought of that, tips and tricks that you are implementing during the pandemic to not just cope with life, but to also thrive? What are you doing to take on this growing epidemic, mental health and well-being, during this pandemic that we call the coronavirus? Hit me up over on Twitter at Mike Biselli, or LinkedIn, just search Mike Biselli, and share with me. I can't wait to hear from you and to learn from you and to see what other leaders are implementing in their daily lives, not just professionally, but also personally, as we need to continue to learn from one another, band together in order to move the health of our communities and nation forward. So most importantly, be relentless and deliberate in your daily life in moving the health of our communities forward while taking the time for self-care and the care of your loved ones. I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you have a great rest of your week, have a restful weekend, and perhaps put that phone away for a 24-hour period, as Pat and his family will be doing the same. Pat, in closing, keep up the great work, my friend. So incredibly proud of you and thankful for all that you do for so many of us around the world. To all of you, keep climbing, stay in touch, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. We'd love to hear your feedback about the podcast so we can continue to improve this community and to further support the pioneers being featured. Lastly, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and invite your friends and colleagues to join us. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you back with us during our next episode.